Hello, everyone. So glad to be here with you today. My name's Janice, and I'm here to welcome you and get us started this morning. Welcome back, or for the first time, to this daily meditation series with Caverly Morgan. Caverly Morgan has been practicing teaching awareness practice for 2 decades. Her background includes 8 years of training of being a monk in a silent Zen monastic context. She's also a nonprofit founder. I am very grateful to be on the Peace in Schools team with Caverly. It's a nonprofit based in Portland, Oregon, that offers transformative mindfulness education to teens and adults. Caverly's also started Presence Collective, which is a community of teachers, healers that are just passionate about getting awareness practice out into the world. So Caverly has a really rich background, and I'm just excited for us to get to practice again with her today. Before I bring her on, just a couple of things to point out. You can say hello in the sidebar and share where you're tuning in from. We have a thriving global community at Sangha Live. And I also want to take a moment to, for those who've been with us for a while, to share the news that it sounds like after much effort and dedication on Sangha Live's part, specifically Jake, it seems like we've gotten to the bottom of these crowdcast issues. So Caverly and I and Cassandra have been in close contact with Jake through all of the tech issues over the last few weeks. And I got an email this morning with some great news that she thinks it possibly is resolved. So huge gratitude to the Sangha Live team for not only making this possible, but for working endlessly, tirelessly to make this experience as seamless as possible. So if you have the means to support people like Jake who are working in the background, to support teachers like Caverly and this platform, please consider donating. The green button is right below me to offer Dana. Your generosity is what makes this possible. And if that's not an option for you right now, just know that that's okay. And you're here because of the community support. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to bring Caverly on and hand it over to her for today's session.
Janice, thank you.
Thank you,
so much. Appreciate it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello. So glad we're here together. I wanted to give one more shout out first to, two shout outs. First, yes, so grateful to Jake, to Caroline, to the team of Sangha Live. It's incredibly touching to me how hard folks are working on the back end to make all of this possible. I think if many of us have no idea how much work goes into it, and it's a lot. So anyway, thank you, Sangha Live. And also a shout out to Janice. Janice has been practicing with me for over 10 years. Janice is one of the first folks I started working with when I started the nonprofit in Sacramento. At that time, it was called One House of Peace. And I was just sharing the practice that I had been seeped in my monastic training. So Janice has worked with me for a long time. She was doing private consults with me and living in New York when a new school reached out to us to say, please bring your semester-long course to our school as well. And I called Janice and said, what if you and Tama moved to Portland? And Janice, being the open, willing millennial that she is, said, okay. It's obviously a little more complicated than that, but at the end of the day, she said okay. And it's been so wonderful to have Janice's support and dedication and wisdom and insight as we've created this course, as it's become what it is today. Janice also does a lot of curriculum work. She's our managing director right now, and then also does a lot of work with the adults who who come to practice with Peace in Schools. We have adult trainings through Peace in Schools. Janice also has become one of the teachers offering practice through Presence Collective. So what's happening, Presence Collective is a DBA of Peace in Schools, of doing business as Peace in Schools. And Presence Collective is a collective of teachers from different traditions, different backgrounds. And Presence Collective also is a platform that allows me to uplift Janice's offerings, that to support Janice in stepping into and claiming this teacher seat, which Janice is very ready to do. So all that background is to say that Janice will be offering practice today through Presence Collective, and you could go to my website, caverlymorgan.org, to find out more. There's a Presence Collective tab, and that should have the event. Actually, Janice, if you could just post that link, that would be great. I'm excited to support Janice in today's offering. And today the webinar title is Cultivating Courage. So please come join if you can. I know it might not be, Janice, remind us the time of day. It might not be a time that works for everybody on this call, but many of you came to 2 p.m. PST. Great. Some of you came to the Wednesday night class last night with me, and what's sweet about it, Kiki, you were there. Thanks for saying hello today. What's sweet about it is that it's intimate, and it allows a lot of face-to-face engagement. So Janice's webinar will be like that too. So friends, thanks for learning a little bit more about Janice. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Verge. Hi, Pamela, Christine, and Andrea. Someday, Andrea, you'll have to tell me whether you're Andrea or Andrea. Ian. Hi, Richard, Laura. I'm really happy to see you all on Mindful Knitting, friends. Lovely. Friends, thanks for saying hello. Thanks for being here. Before we move into today's meditation, I did bring a poem for today. And before we move into the meditation, I did want to acknowledge and name something that came up for us in last night's class, is that so many people in the United States in particular are grieving right now. And I do recognize that. I love that this is a global community. I actually find it quite relieving that there are many people that join these sessions that aren't practicing with the same dynamics that we're practicing with here in the States, just given the history of the United States, the history of genocide and colonization. And colonization is, of course, in Europe and in other places that you're joining in from as well. But it felt important just to name what happened with George Floyd, a Black man in the United States who was murdered by a white police officer. And there's, in the communities that I practice within, and the people who come to share their experience and are looking for ways to practice with what is, this is a very alive topic. So I wanted to just name that. I think it's so important that we don't view meditation practice as a place to hide from the world, but rather we allow our meditation practice to be the place in which we move into experience fully. And that includes the world, that includes everything. At the same time that we embrace practice as a place for moving into experience, I think it's important to name that practice offers us a way to have resource as we move into. So it's one thing to say that you'd like to move into what's happening in the world by watching the news all the time, or being glued to social media, or following every detail of every event that's happening in your community, or trying to keep up with everything that's happening in the world, which would of course be impossible. It's another when we move into experience from a resourced place, from the seat of presence. And I see Sangha, the community of people who practice together, as a place for us to move into collectively. So collective care can shine here. If you've been attending these calls, you likely feel some sense of connection to the community of people who are showing up together, even if it's just you've seen a name come through, or had the consistency of this time of day and this group of people, my voice. There's something that can be grounding about the repetition of an experience with Sangha. That's actually the reason I've been so eager to continue these teachings, because I appreciate that it's cultivating Sangha. It's not just about one meditation or one webinar that quote unquote offers answers. It's about shared practice, coming together collectively. And I believe that benefits our world. So today we'll be focusing on refuge and collective care, and what it's like to move into from home. Thank you for being here. Thank you again for saying hello, letting me know you're here. And after today's meditation, I'm delighted that we'll see if we could have some face-to-face exchanges. So be sitting with whether you're up for that for today. Coming into the position that works best for you for this meditation. Entering the Dharma hall of this body-mind. Hello from Amsterdam, Jane. Hi from San Francisco. Hi, Ellen. Truckee, John, welcome. Today's poem is from the Radiance Sutras, the translation by Lauren Roche. the one who is at play everywhere, says, there's a space in the heart where everything meets. Come here if you want to find me. Mind, senses, soul, eternity, all are here. Are you here? Enter the bowl of vastness that is the heart. Listen to the song that is always resonating. Give yourself to it with total abandon. Quiet ecstasy is here. And a steady, regal sense of resting in a perfect spot. You who are the embodiment of blessing, once you know the way, the nature of attention will call you to return. Again and again, answer that call and be saturated with the knowing. I belong here. I am home. Be saturated with the knowing. I belong here. I am home. This home, this refuge, has room for everything. This refuge, this home, has room for grief, pain, worry, sadness. There's room for joy, elation, delight. The home of your very being pushes nothing away. Allow your meditation to be a universal yes to what is. Not a universal, I agree with this, not a universal, I prefer this, I condone this. Francis Lucille, the teacher, spoke about meditation as a universal yes. Recognize this home, this refuge that we're touching, experiencing, resting in today to be the seat of your universal yes. Move into experience with open arms. Feel the way in which everything meets in the heart. touch and rest in this space in the heart where everything meets. This bowl of vastness that is your very being, the refuge of your own true nature. The source is your ultimate resource. The refuge of your very being. The ultimate resource. Notice any habitual tendency to leave this refuge. In truth, you never leave this refuge, but the attention wanders. When it wanders, it feels as though we've abandoned home. And we then long for home, the home of our true nature. When you claim this seat of presence, notice how the world comes to you, the world arises in you. In you, in this vastness of the heart. Everything meets there. You don't need to leave you. Awareness, this vastness, this open hand of love. This open hand of love is your home. Not a physical structure, not a image of a house in your mind, but your home. This open hand of love is your home. And many of you now are staying home. You're quarantined. Allow this multi-layered meaning of staying home to be illuminated. What is your life like when you stay home? When experience comes to you, presence. When you see it as arising in you, awareness. Nothing you're shutting out, nothing you're grabbing onto. Simply allowing everything to meet here in home. In this open hand of love. Friends, hello. Thank you. Thank you for your presence. As always. Christine, thank you for your insight. This gives stay home a whole new meaning. This is my moment in which I get to remind you that this platform exists because of your generosity. Please donate by using the button below. Thanks for the lovely slow session with inner connectivity, collective care. Thank you for naming that. And I apologize, I don't know how to say your name. Perhaps you'd like to come on screen. Please do if that would be nourishing for you. I would love to see you if you would like to chat. Or Jan, you're welcome to as well. Thanks for writing in as well right now. Such a wonderful meditation presence as refuge. Yes, it's interesting to consider, isn't it? What shifts in our day? This could be our assignment for the day. What shifts in our day when we recognize presence as our refuge and we recognize this vastness of being as who we are. I think sometimes in Buddhist circles, true nature, knowing true nature can be presented as some exotic experience that's far off in the future after many years of diligent practice. It's helpful to remember that presence, our true nature, is actually our most primary experience of being alive. It's the most essential. It's the most familiar. The most welcome. You're naming you were able to drop into presence. Beautiful. Beautiful. And Maria, you're welcoming huge tiredness. To rest here in presence, absolutely. Yes, that's why I love Francis Lucille's meditation is a universal yes to everything or to what is. I'll have to look up the exact words. Everything can be here. Everything is welcome here. Everything can rest here. We don't have to create our meditation practice as some separate place where no one can disturb us, where nothing can disturb us, where we're taking a break from everything else. If we view meditation practice that way, we're placing meditation practice on a very fine line of space and time. It's this, the present moment is this little moment that we need to get to in order to have peace, rather than recognizing that the construct of time arises out of presence. The vastness, the openness, the infinite nature of presence. Thank you, Laura, for writing in. Tears fell down the whole time. In my experience, often tears are the remembrance, the recognition of who we are, the relief of remembering our own being. And you mentioned, thank you for supporting the idea that there's room for everything in our hearts. Absolutely. There really is, isn't there? There's room for everything in our hearts. And Jane, thank you for thanking me, and thank you for thanking all. We're in this together. We're cultivating remembrance together. What a gift to our world right now, to have community of presence, to have collective presence, shared presence, recognizing our shared being, this open hand of love, not simply being one singular open hand, but our shared open hands of love. Friends, someone needs to come on screen. Joyce, come on screen. Joyce is, as you all know, our titling volunteer. And actually, Joyce, I'm being playful. If you don't want to come on screen today, no worries. But I'm so eager to test out and see if the changes we've made are going to help with that sharing of presence. And it's fine if today's meditation left you feeling quiet or still. Often when I don't see a whole lot of comments, it strikes me that we together might just be sharing more stillness. You might have noticed, if you've been attending these sessions, that when I did the process mapping, there were lots of chats, and that's great. Also, silence is great. It can kind of depend on what gets activated, can't it? Nikki, you're acknowledging you had a similar experience to Laura after a very challenging day. Tears fell. My mind kept trying to take me back to solve the challenges, but the presence of pure love was there to meet everything. Nikki, what more could we ask for? This presence of pure love, that is our true nature. This presence that meets everything equally, including my puppy downstairs yelping. He's very vocal. He's chiming in. Sandy, I think it's difficult. And Janice, thanks for letting me. Joyce is going to come on. Sandy, I think it's difficult to really fathom that there's a spot where self-protection and defensiveness is not required. Sandy, I love that you wrote in, and Jan, thanks for acknowledging that you resonate with that. Sandy, consider, and for all of us, consider that this presence we're talking about isn't a spot. I'm going to say more about that, but I want to welcome Joyce. Joyce, you are a sport and a trooper. I'm just dying to try this out. So thank you for
Can you hear me?
on. Yes.
So I'm being prompted by Janice what questions to ask.
Well, here's the good news. You actually really don't need to ask anything. I love that this morning's call, I got to give a shout out to Janice for all that she brings to this community. And Joyce, how lovely that people get to see you for a moment. You have been working very hard with transcriptions and dropping things into folders so that they can become little Instagram posts later. And you also have been just really invaluable in terms of giving these things titles. It occurred to me that today might be the open hand of love, but people can put their votes on the sidebar.
Oh, yeah, I have some thoughts with my.
Oh, good. Joyce usually does. I can count on Joyce for that. And then just another fun shout out for those on our call. Joyce happens to be Janice's mother. So I've been practicing with these two lovely women for over a decade. So.
And we do tend to text during the meditations back and forth once in a while.
But don't tell anyone that, because that would just be,
Anyway, Janice's question and mine as well. What is this about leaving home? Why do we leave home? I mean, why can't we just stay in presence? Why are we constantly pulled away?
Yeah. Well, first you can tell Janice, who, good thing she's not listening in the background. You can tell her that she's practiced with me long enough to know that she's in trouble for asking a why question. So Janice knows that at the monastery where I trained, we would actually joke about how common the why question was. And very specifically, we would explore, like, why is the why question sometimes problematic? Mm-hmm. Often is problematic because it's an indicator that we're just now coming from the head. We're trying to figure something out, as someone just said, now I could see the mind trying to solve something, so, and then the other thing that can tend to happen when we go to the head like that is we're trying to figure something out from the very experience of limitation mm-hmm. that we long to not live within. Mm-hmm. So, why do we leave? We could talk about that for a while, and maybe I'll address it in just a moment. But let's first notice, and this is in line with what we've been doing lately, isn't it? The process. Let's notice the process of our tendency to leave experience to try to figure something out. Wouldn't it be more interesting to bring a lot of attention to how do we leave? That the Buddha used to say, and if there was someone who had answers to why questions, it was certainly the Buddha. But he used to say, I'm not going to address why questions. Apparently, I don't know if he really said this, but the word on the street is that the Buddha said, I'm not going to answer that question because I want you to be interested in how does this happen? How do you suffer?
Mhm.
So how do we leave presence? Is it a compelling thought that pulls us off? What happens?
That's a really good point, because I, just my nature, always want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And what if do you need to know the answer to why for everything before you can have the experience of resting? That would be a neat place to look.
that's my tendency, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's your conditioned tendency,
Exactly,
Joy.
totally.
Yeah.
But to switch it to how is a big step.
That is a big step, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot gets revealed when we switch the inquiry to how.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do we leave? We've unpacked that. Now, why do we leave? One of the reasons we leave is because one of the ways that we know the world is by, like the way Rupert Spira says it, is consciousness assumes the limitations of the finite mind to know the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we could, if we take that view, then we could just say it's just part of the deal that happens. But I love that may be part of the deal, but that it's not required. Look how quickly and easily, collectively, we can rest together in presence. And please don't turn this into no negative self-talk if you're on this call and you didn't have any experience of being able to rest in presence in that meditation. That's fine.
Yeah.
I love that Spencer just said, Adyashanti has said many times, if you want to suffer, just ask why. Why is an argument with what is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Joyce, thank you for coming on, helping us test this out. And thanks for letting me give a big shout out to you. You didn't know I was going to do that. And you're probably blushing, but I really do. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all you do. And you've been so dedicated to practice for a long time now. And I value that you're part of this Sangha.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I think I saw someone else's note that they would like to come on. John said, how do we appear on screen? So John, you just write it there, and I'm going to trust that Janice is probably supporting you in coming on. And Ellen, thanks for saying thank you and acknowledging sometimes they're just not words. Absolutely, that's why I never actually get stressed out when suddenly it's silent. It's at the monastery where I trained, there was a note above the phone in the office that said, before speaking, consider whether it's an improvement upon silence. I loved that. John and Nancy, you acknowledge that focusing on the heart is a great way to start and then lead to a gradual opening rather than emptiness and fullness. Beautiful. Well, hello. Thank you, John and Nancy. Hi, John and Nancy.
Nancy had to leave, but
I was going to ask you, John, is there really a Nancy, or is this just like, I don't think I've seen Nancy, have I?
There is really a Nancy, and
there
she's
really
always
is a
sitting
Nancy.
here.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I'm the wrong John.
You know what, John, it's funny. I actually, I see that John Weed is offering to come on, but based on the time, John Weed, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to come on tomorrow, bring a question or a comment tomorrow. I'd love to see you. We are over, and I know that Janice actually has to jump on and do something else soon. But now that you're here, John and Nancy Wilson, is there anything that you'd like to say? Or
well, I really just, as I said in my little chat note there, this was one of the most powerful times for me to get in touch with this notion of awareness and presence, and I think it was that the work we did, the dental floss work.
Oh yeah.
To identify that heart chakra and
the process mapping, you mean?
Well, and then earlier, several weeks ago, we did the actual breathing meditation.
The breathing. Okay, good. It's neat that you're connecting those two things.
So I could start with that focus, the heart, but then I felt this great opening.
Beautiful. Yes, John, again, it's meaningful and rich to me to hear that those two things are connecting for you. So if we were on a retreat together, the connection point of that might be more obvious, but it's nice that even just showing up regularly allows for the connection point to shine forth. Thank you, John. It's great to see you.
I'll make sure Nancy's here next time.
Okay, good. I look forward to seeing her. And yes, John Weed, thank you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, I hope. And friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for a rich practice period together today. May you rest in the open hand of love.